The origin of April Fool's Day lies in the Middle Ages. Popular pranks at the time included sending a person on a non existent, aka fool's errand, pinning paper fish to unsuspecting people's backs, and dressing up in absurd costumes. At Swan Software Solutions, we have some excellent pranksters in the office, so we started wondering, how has technology changed the way we prank one another? Here are some of the best pranks, the worst pranks, and the most malicious pranks ever done using technology. Our first prank dates far older than one might expect for technology-based prank. Its technology medium was the newspaper, which was primarily made possible by the invention of the printing press in 1440, but it was the penny press boom technological advances in 1830s that allowed newspapers to be printed cheaper and thus become more widely available. In August of 1835, a series of articles claimed a famed British astronomer, a real person who nonetheless had nothing to do with the articles, had used a new and better telescope that allowed him to see to the moon. In the six-part series, the scientists claimed to have seen the moon's surface and discovered it was a lush world filled with forests, oceans, strange animals, and even bat-winged humanoid creatures. The stories were written in serious scientific language and attributed to a respected but entirely fictional academic journal. Readers were told they were witnessing the greatest scientific discovery in human history. While the story seems to have originally been written as satire, many people, including some scientists, took it seriously. Later, it was revealed that it had all been a hoax. On the plus side, the newspaper circulation had increased. Our second technology-based prank happened in 1938 and took place not on April Fool's Day but October 30th. The technology to pull this notable prank came about less than 2 decades before, when commercial broadcasting on the radio began in 1920. In the intervening years, owning a radio went from too expensive for the average household to commonly owned. By 1938, around 80 to 82% of American homes owned a radio. With technology setting the stage, a rising star named Orson adapted an 1898 novel for a radio play. His idea was to present his radio play as if it was a news broadcast. The book he chosen to adapt was titled The War of the Worlds. People listening to his spoofed news broadcast believed that the world really had been invaded by Martians. Although Orson did have an intro where he explained that they were doing a radio play, anyone missing the beginning would merely have heard an orchestra performance interrupted by ever more disturbing news bulletins about a fallen meteorite and the subsequent attacks. Orson cut back to the dance music in between the reports, which only made it seem more believable that they were real breaking news reports. Orson included another disclaimer at the end, but a lot of people had already panicked. Orson issued an apology, but in terms of technology-based pranks, this one goes down in history as one of the first and greatest. Our third prank also employed a new technology medium, this time television. On this occasion, the perpetrator of the prank wasn't a rising star. It was a reputable news broadcaster who people trusted, the BBC. In 1957, BBC had a 3-minute segment about one Swiss family's bumper crop of spaghetti after a mild winter and the disappearance of the spaghetti weevil. The segment included footage of a festival and a discussion of the breeding required for plants to produce the correct length of spaghetti. While it's hard to believe people actually fell for the prank, at the time spaghetti wasn't common in Britain. It usually came from a can pre-mixed with spaghetti sauce and was considered an exotic delicacy. Additionally, the voice of a respected broadcaster was used to add seriousness to the prank. The next day, BBC had a deluge of phone calls. Some questioned the story. Others only wanted to know how to grow a spaghetti tree of their own. BBC reportedly responded that one should stick a stick of spaghetti in tomato sauce and wait for it to grow. No word on how long wannabe spaghetti growers waited before realizing that that poor stick of spaghetti was going to grow nothing but mold. Our next prank took place in 1996, but it reused the technology employed for the Great Moon hoax of 1835. This time, the prankster was a corporation, not the newspaper itself. Taco Bell took out full-page ads in newspapers across the country to announce that it had purchased the Liberty Bell and would be renaming it the Taco Liberty Bell. Readers were outraged, and both Taco Bell and the National Park Services fielded calls from livid Americans. At noon, Taco Bell revealed the announcement had been an April Fool's Day stunt. While exact figures vary, the company later claimed the prank generated widespread publicity and a significant short-term sales boost. Well, let's be honest though. When it comes to corporations pulling April Fool's Day pranks, one company rules: Google. We won't look at all of the pranks they pulled off over the years, but here's a small sampling. On April 1st, 2000, Google pulled off its first April Fool's Day prank. On the screen was a swirl of red and blue. Directions instructed users to stare at the spiral and think about what they wanted to search for. Anyone who tried to click received an error message. Of course, now it really does seem like our phones read our minds. One merely thinks about buying a new rug, and one's phone is inundated with ads for rugs. In 2007, Google pulled off another April Fool's Day prank when it advertised the Google Gulp, a line of smart drinks designed to maximize your surfing efficiency by making you more intelligent and less thirsty. The drink supposedly came in 4 different flavors, but the next paragraph of the ad made even more outrageous claims about a DNA reading chip embedded in the lip of the bottle to ultimately, quote, achieve maximum optimization of your soon-to-be grateful cerebral cortex, unquote. In 2013, Google made yet another announcement of an innovative technology. This time, Google Knows. The company leaned into the prank with a professional promotional video explaining why the technology was designed, how it worked, and even where to find the Knows feature on the Google page. Anyone who hoped it might be real must have been disappointed to realize that it was just another April Fool's Day prank. Other than some face reddening if one had tried to actually sniff their computer, Google's pranks are usually both funny and innovative. Some pranks are far worse and more malicious than funny. Shortly after an iPhone released, a professional-looking ad circulated the internet and claimed that the iPhone had innovative new technology that allowed it to be charged by microwaving it. Anyone with a basic knowledge of microwaves and phones would realize the two don't mix. But the professional-looking ad had more than one person trying the hack. And more than one phone and microwave ended up, well, cooked. One prank that is usually benign but not always is naming one's Wi-Fi. Some set a new name since they don't want the generic jumble of letters and numbers that come with the router. Finding that new name is when things get a bit more interesting. Some have thought it would be funny to choose a name like FBI Surveillance Van or CIA Safe House. While it should be obvious no covert law enforcement operation would name its Wi-Fi that, at least one person has wound up in real legal trouble over this joke. Another Wi-Fi name that caused real-world consequences was a hotspot named after a terrorism joke that caused a flight delay. Another person on a flight named their network Samsung Galaxy Note 7, a phone that had been recalled for catching fire, which soon had the prankster and all the other passengers experiencing an emergency landing. One wonders if that prankster regretted his or her choice. And one can hardly let a video on pranks pass without acknowledging prankware. Some basic examples include variations like an early program that would lie dormant and then suddenly fill the screen with a skull while playing a horrifying shriek, a vintage virus that would stop all computer operations every 10 seconds to show a small figure walking across the screen, fake virus scripts that were simple files often shared online that trigger infinite virus-detected pop-ups until the user finds a hidden way to close them. While these varied and were intended as harmless, a close compatriot of prankware is scareware that used many of the same tactics with the hope of scaring victims into clicking malicious links or purchasing quote-unquote help to fix the problem. AI has made pranking even easier. Want to convince your coworker the boss is mad? Feed your boss's voice into an AI voice generator. Want to make it look like the dog trashed the sofa? Use an AI image generator. Want to send a video of your child covered in paint to your spouse? Use an AI video generator. Some social media now revolves around pranking people and filming their reactions. Convince your significant other you've been seriously injured so they frantically drive to your side. Tell your spouse you cheated and film their reaction. Lick ice cream in the store and put it back on the shelf for another unsuspecting shopper to buy. Therapists point out that these are red flags. Is it worth risking either your significant others or someone else's injury as they frantically drive to their supposedly injured loved one's side? Is it really worth it to deeply traumatize your spouse by confessing to an affair one didn't have? Is it worth the legal repercussions of finding oneself in jail for tampering with a consumer product? Pranks can be amusing, but only if everybody is laughing. You be the judge. Which of these pranks is the best? Which is the worst? And which are just plain mean? For now, we might just stick to putting googly eyes on our coworker's stapler. And one thing that is no prank is that Swan Software Solutions is a reliable, scalable, and affordable technology partner. Visit swansoftwaresolutions.com to find out more.